The storm hit the mountains harder than expected. Rain hammered against the windows of the research station, while wind screamed through the valleys below. Taesung sat at his desk, monitoring weather patterns on his computer screen. He had lived alone in this remote station for 3 years now, ever since he left military service. The solitude suited him. No orders, no compromises. Just him, the mountains, and the occasional hiker who needed help. Thunder rolled across the peaks, but something else came with it. A sound that did not belong. Taesung lifted his head, listening. There it was again, a high-pitched whine cutting through the storm, followed by a massive explosion that shook the entire building. His coffee mug fell from the desk and shattered on the floor. He grabbed his emergency pack and flashlight, pulled on his weatherproof jacket, and ran outside into the storm. The rain instantly soaked through his clothes, but he pushed forward. Years of training kicked in automatically. His feet found purchase on the slick rocks as he climbed toward the source of the explosion. Orange flames flickered through the trees about half a kilometer away. When Taesung reached the site, he stopped and stared. This was not a plane. The wreckage before him looked like nothing he had ever seen. Smooth metallic surfaces reflected the firelight in strange patterns. The craft was roughly the size of a small bus, but its shape made no sense. Curved in impossible ways with no visible seams or rivets, parts of it were still glowing with heat. He circled the wreckage carefully, looking for survivors. The crash had torn the ship open on one side, creating a jagged entrance. Taesung pulled out his flashlight and peered inside. The interior was filled with equipment he could not identify. Lights blinked on panels written in symbols that were definitely not any human language. Then he saw her. She lay crumpled against the far wall of the ship, one arm bent at an unnatural angle. Her skin had a faint bluish tint, and her hair was silver white flowing down past her shoulders. She wore some kind of fitted suit that looked both elegant and functional. Blood, purple blood, leaked from a wound on her forehead. Taesung's medical training took over. He climbed into the wreckage, ignoring the sparking electronics and the groaning metal. He checked her pulse. It was there, but faint and irregular. Her breathing was shallow. She needed help immediately. He assessed her injuries quickly. Broken arm, head trauma, possible internal bleeding. Her anatomy was different from human, but similar enough that he could work with it. He pulled emergency supplies from his pack. Bandages, splints, antiseptic. His hands moved with practiced efficiency as he stabilized her arm and wrapped her head wound. As he worked, a new sound reached his ears. A mechanical buzzing growing louder. Taesung looked up through the torn opening in the ship. 3 objects flew through the storm, moving in a search pattern. They were drones of some kind, sleek and black with red scanning lights that swept across the forest. One of them paused above the crash site. Its light fell directly on the wreckage. Taesung held his breath. Then, without warning, the drone fired. A burst of energy slammed into the ship, melting a hole through the metal wall just meters from where he crouched. He threw himself over the unconscious woman, shielding her with his body. The message was clear. These drones were not here to rescue. They were here to kill. Taesung made a decision. He carefully lifted the woman, she was lighter than he expected, and carried her out of the ship. The drones were sweeping through the area, but the storm provided cover. He moved quickly through the trees, using every bit of terrain to his advantage. His station had a basement bunker, originally built as a shelter from avalanches and extreme weather. It would have to do. The journey back took 20 minutes of careful movement through the storm. The drones passed overhead twice, but he managed to stay hidden beneath heavy tree cover. By the time he reached the station, his arms were burning from carrying her, but he did not stop. He took her straight down to the bunker and laid her on the emergency cot. The bunker was small but well supplied. He had medical equipment, food, water, and a backup generator. More importantly, it was underground, which might hide them from the drone's scanners. Taesung locked the heavy door behind them and returned to his patient. He set up an IV line, guessing at the placement based on what seemed to be her major blood vessels. To his relief, the fluid seemed to work with her biology. Her color improved slightly and her breathing steadied. He splinted her broken arm properly and cleaned her wounds more thoroughly. Throughout the night, he monitored her vital signs, such as he could determine them, and prayed that his field medicine was enough. By morning, the storm had passed. Taesung checked the security monitors he had placed around the station. The drones were still out there, searching methodically through the forest. They had found the crash site and were scanning it thoroughly. But they had not yet found his station. He looked at the woman on the cot. Who was she? Where did she come from? And why did someone want her dead badly enough to send killer drones after her? The logical thing to do was contact authorities. First contact with alien life should involve governments, scientists, and protocols. But Tae-sung had seen the assassination attempt. If he called for help, he might be bringing her killers right to her. And something in his gut told him that she had been running from something terrible when she crashed here. He sat down in the chair beside the cot and made his choice. He would protect her, at least until he understood what was happening, at least until she could tell him her story. He had left military service because he was tired of following orders that felt wrong. He would not make that mistake again. The woman stirred slightly, her eyes moving beneath closed lids. Tae-sung leaned forward, watching carefully. Her fingers twitched. She was fighting her way back to consciousness. Soon he would have answers. Soon he would know if his decision had been right. Above ground, the drones continued their search, and somewhere in the sky beyond, unknown ships waited for their signal. The hunt had only just begun. The woman's eyes opened suddenly, and Tae-sung found himself staring into irises that were a striking violet color. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then she tried to sit up, gasped in pain, and reached for her injured arm. Tae-sung raised his hands in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. Easy, he said softly. You are hurt. I am trying to help you. She stared at him, confusion and fear clear on her face. Her mouth moved and sounds came out, but they were nothing like any language Tae-sung had ever heard. Musical flowing, completely alien, she spoke faster, more urgently, then winced and touched her head where he had bandaged the wound. Tae-sung pointed to himself. Tae-sung? He repeated it slowly. Tae-sung. Then he pointed to her and raised his eyebrows questioningly. She seemed to understand the gesture. Her hand went to a device on her wrist, but when she touched it, nothing happened. The screen was cracked and dark. She made a frustrated sound and tried tapping it several times. Still nothing. Tae-sung had an idea. He went to his workbench and found his tablet. He pulled up a translation app, knowing it would be useless for her language but hoping she would understand the concept. He showed her the screen with various language options displayed. Her eyes widened. She reached for the device on her wrist again, this time pressing a different sequence of buttons. A faint light flickered, then stabilized. She touched several controls and suddenly a holographic display appeared above her wrist. She manipulated it quickly, then pointed it at Tae-sung. Can you understand me now? The words came from the device, slightly mechanical but clear. Yes, Tae-sung said, relief flooding through him. Yes, I can understand you. Where am I? Who are you? Her voice was tense, ready for danger. You are on Earth. My planet. Your ship crashed in the mountains during a storm. I found you and brought you here. My name is Tae-sung. I am a doctor, sort of. I used to be a military medic. She processed this information, her violet eyes studying him carefully. You saved my life. I did what I could. Your injuries were serious. You still need rest. The drones, she said suddenly, trying to sit up again despite the pain. Did you see the drones? Yes, they fired on your ship. That is why I brought you here to hide. They are still searching outside. Fear flashed across her face, followed by determination. They are not rescue drones. They are assassins. They were sent to kill me. Tae-sung nodded slowly. I figured that out when they started shooting. Who are you? Why do they want you dead? She hesitated, clearly weighing how much to tell him. Finally she spoke. My name is Hana. I'm a princess of the Valerian Empire, and I am running away from a marriage that would destroy my life. Over the next hour, Hana told her story. The Valerian Empire stretched across dozens of star systems, ancient and powerful. Her mother, Queen Mireille, ruled with wisdom but also with the weight of political necessity. A dangerous warlord named Gangjin controlled several key systems. He wanted to expand his power and he wanted a connection to the royal family. The solution, as the court advisors saw it, was marriage. Hana would marry Gangjin, binding his territory to the empire peacefully. Never mind that Gangjin was cruel. Never mind that Hana had no choice in the matter. Never mind that she would spend her life as a political tool rather than a person. So I ran, Hana said, her voice bitter. I stole a scout ship and escaped. But Gangjin has resources everywhere. He hired the Shorn, mercenaries who never failed to complete their contracts. They tracked me, damaged my ship, and I crashed here. Your mother agreed to this marriage? Taesung asked. My mother is a queen first and a mother second. She believes this marriage will save lives by preventing a war. Perhaps she is right, but they are not her life being sacrificed. Taesung understood that feeling all too well. He had left military service for similar reasons. Orders that made sense politically but felt wrong morally. What will you do now? I do not know. My ship is destroyed. My emergency beacon is on the ship, which the Shorn have certainly found by now. I have nowhere to go. Then you stay here, Taesung said firmly, until you are healed. Until we figure out a plan. Why would you do this? You do not know me. This is not your problem. Someone is trying to kill you. That makes it my problem. Besides, I am not very good at following orders I do not agree with. Never have been. For the first time, Hana smiled slightly. I am beginning to understand this about you. Over the next 2 days, they settled into an uneasy routine. Taesung monitored the drone's search patterns while caring for Hana's injuries. She healed faster than a human would, but still needed time. They talked during her waking hours, sharing stories of their worlds. Hana was amazed by Earth's diversity. One planet with so many different cultures, languages, and ecosystems. She told him about the Velaran homeworld with its twin suns and floating cities. She explained technology that seemed like magic to him. Faster than light travel, energy weapons, and medical devices that could heal injuries in minutes. Then why did you nearly die from your crash injuries? Taesung asked. Because I had no medical equipment with me. The Shorn destroyed it when they damaged my ship. Without immediate treatment, I would have bled to death. Your primitive methods... She paused, seeing his expression. I mean, your basic methods saved me when my advanced technology could not. Sometimes simple solutions work best, Taesung said. On the 3rd day, the drones changed their pattern. They began moving in a tighter grid closer to the station. Taesung watched the monitors with growing concern. They are getting more thorough. Eventually, they will find this place. Hana struggled to her feet, holding her injured arm carefully. Then we need to be ready to run. You are not strong enough yet. I will have to be. That night, Taesung heard new sounds on the monitors. Not drones this time, footsteps, multiple contacts. He woke Hana immediately. Ground forces. They are here. She looked at him with wide eyes. The Shorn themselves. Not just their drones. How many? She accessed her damaged wrist device, pulling up whatever scans still worked. At least 6. Maybe more. Taesung, these are trained killers. They have hunted across dozens of worlds. What can we do? Taesung checked his weapons. 2 hunting rifles, a pistol, and various tools that could be weaponized. Against alien mercenaries with advanced technology. He looked at Hana, saw the fear in her eyes, and made his decision. We do what humans do best, he said. We adapt. We survive, and we make them regret coming to my mountain. The first Shorn operative died before he knew humans were dangerous. Taesung had spent the night setting traps around the station, using everything he had learned in military service. Simple tripwires connected to homemade explosives, hidden pits covered with branches. His hunting rifles positioned at strategic points. The mercenary triggered a trap designed for wild animals, but it worked just as well on overconfident hunters. The explosion echoed through the valley. Taesung and Hana were already moving, abandoning the station as planned. They headed deeper into the mountains, using paths that Taesung had memorized over 3 years of living here. Hana struggled with her injuries, but she pushed through the pain without complaint. That will make them angry, she said, breathing hard as they climbed. Good. Angry people make mistakes. They heard shouts behind them in a language Taesung did not understand. Hana's translation device picked it up, though. They are calling for backup, and they are promising to make our death slow. Let them come. Taesung led them to a cave system he had explored during his first year at the station. The entrance was narrow and hidden behind a waterfall. Inside, the caves branched into a maze of tunnels. He had emergency supplies cached here just in case. Food, water, medical supplies, and weapons. They rested in the deepest chamber while Taesung checked Hana's injuries. The running had reopened the wound on her head. He cleaned and rebandaged it. You need to take it easy. Easy is not an option right now. Then at least rest for a few hours. They will need time to track us here. Hana sat against the cave wall, exhausted. Tell me about your military service. Where did you learn to fight like this? Taesung did not talk about his past often, But here in the darkness, with killers hunting them, it seemed right to share. He told her about his years as a combat medic, about saving lives on battlefields, about the missions that made sense and the ones that did not, about the final operation that made him walk away. We were ordered to secure a village. Command said there were enemy fighters hiding there. But when we arrived, there were only families, farmers, children. My superiors still wanted us to round everyone up, separate them, interrogate them harshly. I refused. I told them these were not soldiers. I was right, but being right does not matter when you disobey orders. They gave me a choice: follow orders without question or leave. So I left. Hana listened quietly. You sacrificed your career for people you did not know. I sacrificed a job that was forcing me to become someone I did not want to be. We are not so different, you and I, Hana said softly. Both running from lives others chose for us. Before Taesung could respond, a sound reached them from the cave entrance. Footsteps on stone. The Shorn had found them faster than expected. They have scanning equipment, Hana whispered. They must have tracked our heat signatures or biological signs. Taesung grabbed his rifle. The tunnels branch ahead. We split up. Make them divide their forces. No, we stay together. Hana, together, she said firmly. You are not dying for me. There was no time to argue. Taesung led them deeper into the cave system, using his flashlight sparingly. He knew these tunnels. The Shorn did not. That had to be enough of an advantage. They heard voices echoing behind them. The mercenaries were speaking to each other, coordinating their search. Hana's device translated fragments. Heat signatures ahead. 2 targets. Take them alive if possible. Gangjin wants me alive, Hana explained. So he can force me to marry him anyway. Make it look like I returned willingly. That is not going to happen. Taesung led them to a narrow section of tunnel that opened into a larger chamber. He positioned Hana behind a rock formation and took up a shooting position. When the first Shorn came through the narrow passage, Taesung fired. The mercenary's armor absorbed most of the damage, but the impact knocked him backward into his companions. Chaos erupted. The Shorn returned fire with energy weapons that lit up the cave. Taesung and Hana ducked as bolts of superheated plasma struck the rocks around them. The enclosed space worked against the mercenaries. Their powerful weapons were too much for precision work in tight quarters. Taesung fired again, this time aiming for the lead mercenary's weapon. The shot connected, and the energy weapon exploded in the Shorn's hands. The blast took out 2 more mercenaries behind him. Run! Taesung shouted. They ran deeper into the caves, with pursuit close behind. But now there were fewer hunters. And they were more cautious. Taesung used that caution against them. He set up hasty traps as they fled, loose rocks balanced to fall, narrow passages that could be collapsed behind them. They emerged from the cave system on the far side of the mountain. Night had fallen. Stars filled the sky above them, more stars than Taesung had ever seen. Hana looked up at them with longing. That one, she said, pointing to a bright star. That is near my home. We will get you back there, Taesung promised. And what about you? What happens to the human who helped a fugitive princess? Before he could answer, a voice called out from the darkness. It spoke Korean, which surprised Taesung. Nice shooting back there, friend. You have real skill. A man stepped into view. He was Korean, tall and muscular, wearing armor similar to the Shorn but customized. He held an energy rifle casually, not quite pointing it at them, but ready. My name is Daeho, the man continued. I lead this team. You have killed 3 of my people and cost me a lot of money. I am impressed, actually. Not many humans could do that. You are human, Taesung said. Why are you hunting her? Daeho shrugged. Money, obviously. The Shorn pay well, and they do not care what planet you are from if you can do the job. This is nothing personal, just business and hunting people for money. That is your business? Do not act superior. You were a soldier. You followed orders and hurt people for your government's interests. I just cut out the middleman and work for myself. Taesung raised his rifle. Walk away. This does not have to end badly for you, Daeho laughed. You are outgunned and outnumbered. My remaining team is surrounding you right now, but I will make you an offer. Give me the princess and walk away. You live. You return to your quiet mountain life. This does not concern you. Everything about this concerns me. Loyal. I respect that. But loyalty to what? A woman you met 3 days ago? An alien who will leave this planet and never think about you again? Be smart. Taesung did not lower his weapon. Hana stepped beside him, her good hand holding a rock like a weapon. It would be useless against armored mercenaries, but she stood ready to fight anyway. Daeho sighed. Fine, have it your way. He raised his weapon. Taesung fired first, but Daeho was fast. He dodged and returned fire. The energy bolt struck the ground beside Taesung and the explosion threw him backward. He hit the ground hard, his rifle skittering away. Daeho advanced, weapon trained on Hana now. Sorry, princess. But contracts are contracts. Hana threw the rock. It struck Daeho's faceplate, cracking it. He stumbled, surprised. In that moment, Taesung lunged forward, tackling him. They hit the ground together, struggling for the weapon. Daeho was strong, enhanced by technology and training, but Taesung had desperation. They rolled across the rocky ground, each trying to gain advantage. Daeho's finger found the trigger and the energy weapon fired wildly into the sky. Then Hana was there, bringing a heavy stone down on Daeho's weapon arm. He screamed and released the rifle. Taesung grabbed it and smashed it into Daeho's helmet. Once, twice. The faceplate shattered. Daeho stopped moving. Taesung stood, breathing hard, pain radiating through his entire body. Something was wrong with his side. He looked down and saw blood spreading across his shirt. When had he been hit? Taesung. Hana was beside him, supporting his weight. You are injured, I know. We need to keep moving. His team is scattered and leaderless. You killed their captain. We have time. She helped him to a sheltered area beneath an overhang. When she lifted his shirt, they both saw the wound. An energy bolt had grazed his side, burning through skin and muscle. Not fatal, but serious. I need medical supplies, Hana said. Real supplies, not cave medicine. Cash, Taesung managed. 500 meters east. Follow the red markers on the trees. Hana found the cache and returned with proper medical equipment. She worked on his wound with steady hands, using his own supplies and her knowledge of Velaran medicine combined. The pain was intense, but Taesung stayed conscious through sheer will. Why? He asked as she worked. Why are you doing this? You could run. Save yourself. Hana looked at him with those violet eyes. Because you saved me first. Because you stood with me when you had every reason to abandon me. Because I am tired of running. And you showed me that standing and fighting is possible. She paused. And because I think you might be the best person I have ever met. Taesung managed a weak smile. You need to meet more people, she smiled back through her tears. Perhaps, but not today. Today we survived together. The night stretched on, and in the distance the remaining Shorn regrouped. But for now, in this moment, a human and an alien princess protected each other beneath the stars. Morning came with pain. Taesung woke to find himself still alive, which was better than he had expected. Hana sat nearby, keeping watch. Her face was drawn with exhaustion, but she managed a small smile when she saw him awake. How do you feel? She asked. Like I got hit by an energy weapon, Taesung said, attempting humor. Because I did. The wound is stable. I sealed it with a medical gel from your supplies mixed with compounds from my device. It should heal. But you need rest. Rest is a luxury we cannot afford. Taesung sat up slowly, wincing. Daeho's team is still out there. They will regroup and come looking, Hana nodded. I know, which is why I need to tell you something. And you are not going to like it. She pulled out her wrist device. The cracked screen flickered with faint light. This has an emergency beacon built into it. A signal that reaches beyond your solar system to my mother's fleet. If I activate it, help will come. Then activate it. You do not understand. If I send that signal, the rescue will come. But so will everything else. My mother, the royal guard. The court. My entire life of duty and obligation. My freedom ends the moment I press this button. Taesung looked at her carefully. But you live. Hana, freedom means nothing if you are dead. Send the signal. There is another problem. The signal takes time to reach the fleet, and time for them to travel here. At least 3 days. We need to survive 3 more days with the Shorn hunting us and you barely able to walk. Then we find a place to make a stand, somewhere defensible where we can hold out. They spent the morning moving slowly east, toward a location Taesung remembered from his explorations. An old mining complex carved into the mountainside. It had limited entrances, high ground advantage, and supplies left behind by previous operations. Most importantly, it had a narrow approach that would force any attackers into a killing zone. By noon, they reached the complex. Taesung was exhausted and feverish from his wound, but he pushed through. They barricaded the main entrance and set up defensive positions. Hana used her technical skills to rig alarms from scavenged equipment. "Ready?" Tae-sung asked. Hana looked at her wrist device for a long moment. Then she pressed the sequence to activate the emergency beacon. A blue light pulsed from the device, sending its message into the void. 3 days, she said quietly. 3 days until my old life catches up to me. We will make it. But that night the Shorn came. They approached carefully, having learned respect for their prey. Tae-sung spotted them on the monitors, 4 remaining mercenaries plus whoever else they might have called for backup. They moved with military precision, covering each other, checking corners, using their scanning equipment to probe the defenses. "They know we are here," Hana said. "Let them know. The question is whether they can get in." The first attack came at midnight. The Shorn tried a direct assault on the main entrance, laying down heavy fire with their energy weapons. But the narrow passage forced them to bunch up, and Tae-sung made every shot count with his rifle. They retreated after losing another mercenary. The second attack came at dawn. This time they tried stealth, sending one operative to climb the cliff face and enter through a ventilation shaft. Hana's alarms caught him. She dropped a heavy piece of equipment down the shaft. The mercenary fell, and they did not try that approach again. Throughout the first day, the attacks continued in waves. The Shorn were professional. They tested every entrance, every weakness. But the mining complex held. Tae-sung and Hana worked together, anticipating each other's movements, covering blind spots, making their limited ammunition count. "You fight well," Hana said during a brief lull. "Better than many warriors I have known." "Fear is a powerful motivator," Tae-sung replied, changing the magazine in his rifle. "Plus, I am defending something worth defending." She looked at him curiously. "Me, or the principle of standing against bullies?" "Both. The second day was harder." Tae-sung's wound was getting worse despite Hana's treatments. Infection was setting in, and he was running a fever. His hands shook when he aimed. Hana took over more of the defense, using his weapons with increasing skill. "Where did you learn to shoot?" Tae-sung asked, watching her fire precise shots through a window. "I am a princess, not helpless. My mother insisted I learn combat skills. I just never thought I would use them against assassins trying to kill me on an alien world. Life is unpredictable like that." The Shorn adapted their tactics. They stopped trying direct assaults and instead laid siege. They positioned themselves around the complex, taking shots whenever Tae-sung or Hana showed themselves, waiting, starving them out. "They know help is coming for you," Tae-sung realized. "They are going to make one final push soon." He was right. On the third morning, with Hana's rescue just hours away, the Shorn committed everything. They had called in reinforcements. More mercenaries, better weapons. They hit the complex from 3 directions simultaneously. Tae-sung and Hana fought desperately. Tae-sung positioned himself at the main entrance, firing until his rifle overheated. Hana covered the side passages, using makeshift explosives she had crafted from mining equipment. The complex filled with smoke and the smell of burning metal. A Shorn mercenary broke through, his armor scorched but functional. He grabbed Hana, lifting her off the ground. She fought, but he was too strong. Tae-sung tried to line up a shot, but his vision was blurring from fever. Then the mercenary froze. He looked down at his chest, where Hana had driven a metal spike through a gap in his armor. He dropped her and fell. "Tae-sung!" Hana was beside him. "Stay with me. Please stay with me." "I am trying," he said weakly. "But I think I need you to take over for a while." More Shorn were coming. Hana dragged Tae-sung to better cover and grabbed his rifle. She stood in the entrance, a princess-turned-warrior, and fought with everything she had. The Shorn advanced. They were going to overrun the position. This was the end. Then the sky lit up. Massive shapes descended through the clouds. Ships the size of buildings, sleek and powerful, with weapons that made the Shorn's equipment look like toys. The Velaran royal fleet had arrived. A single shot from the lead ship vaporized the Shorn's position. Another shot. Another. In seconds, the mercenaries were scattered or dead. The siege was over. Hana dropped the rifle and ran to Tae-sung. "We did it. We held them off. Help is here." Tae-sung managed a weak smile. "Told you, we would make it." The largest ship landed in the valley below. From its hangar bay, a small transport craft rose and approached the mining complex. Royal guards poured out, securing the area with practiced efficiency. They were magnificent in their ceremonial armor, trained warriors who moved like predators, and behind them came a woman who could only be the queen. Queen Mirai was tall and regal, her presence commanding immediate respect. She wore robes that seemed to shimmer with their own light, and her silver hair, so like Hana's, was bound in an elaborate crown. Her eyes were the same violet color but harder, eyes that had seen centuries of rule and made impossible decisions. She surveyed the scene, the destroyed mercenaries, the damaged complex, the blood and scorch marks everywhere. Then her eyes found her daughter, battered and exhausted but alive. For just a moment, the queen's composure cracked. She moved forward and embraced Hana tightly. "My daughter," she said softly, "you are alive." "Yes, mother. I am alive because of him." Hana pulled back and gestured to Tae-sung, who was being tended by royal medics. "He saved me. He protected me. He fought an entire team of shorn mercenaries with nothing but primitive weapons and determination." Queen Mirai turned her attention to Tae-sung. She studied him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable even through his fever. She saw his wounds, his exhausted state, the weapons he had used. She saw everything. "You are the human," she said. It was not a question. "I am Tae-sung," he replied, managing to keep his voice steady. "And yes, I am human. You saved my daughter's life. You fought trained killers to protect her. You nearly died for someone you barely knew." The queen stepped closer. "Why?" Tae-sung thought about that question. Through the pain and exhaustion, he found his answer. "Because it was the right thing to do. Because someone needed help and I was there. Because your daughter deserves better than being hunted and forced into a life she does not want." The queen was silent for a long moment. Then she gestured and her guards brought forward a prisoner. Daeho, battered but alive. "This one says you are a former soldier, that you abandoned your post. I left because I refused to follow orders I believed were wrong. And you would do so again? Disobey authority when you disagree?" Tae-sung met her eyes steadily. "Yes, I would." To his surprise, Queen Mirai smiled. "Good, blind obedience is common. Moral courage is rare." She turned to her guards. "Take the human to our medical bay. Give him the best treatment we have. He has earned that much." As they lifted Tae-sung onto a stretcher, Hana gripped his hand. "Thank you. For everything, just try to stay out of trouble," Tae-sung said. "At least until I can walk again." She laughed through her tears. "I will try." They carried him toward the royal ship. As they did, Tae-sung looked back and saw Queen Mirai speaking quietly with her daughter. Whatever happened next, whatever consequences came from this encounter, he had done what he thought was right. Sometimes that was all anyone could do. The ship's doors closed behind him and a new chapter began. The medical bay aboard the royal flagship was unlike anything Tae-sung had ever imagined. Soft light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, machines that hummed at frequencies he could barely hear, and most impressively, within 6 hours of treatment, his infected wound had completely healed, not scarred over, healed, as if it had never existed. A Velaran doctor examined him one final time. She was efficient and professional, explaining through a translator that his body had responded well to their regenerative treatments. She seemed mildly surprised that human physiology was compatible with their medicine. "You may dress now," she said. "The queen has requested your presence." They had provided him with clean clothes, not Velaran garments but new versions of his own style. Simple, practical. Someone had paid attention to human preferences. Tae-sung dressed and followed the guard who came to escort him. The flagship was enormous. They walked through corridors wide enough for 10 people to walk side by side. Through windows, he caught glimpses of the other ships in the fleet, dozens of them ranging from small fighters to massive carriers. The military power on display was staggering. The guard brought him to a large chamber. Inside, Queen Mirai sat on a raised platform that served as a throne. Hana stood beside her, now dressed in royal attire that marked her clearly as a princess. Around the chamber stood various officials and advisors, all watching Tae-sung with curious eyes. "Approach," the queen commanded. Tae-sung walked forward, acutely aware that he was probably breaking a dozen protocols he knew nothing about. He stopped a respectful distance from the throne and waited. "Tell me everything," Queen Mirai said. "From the beginning. How you found my daughter. How you protected her, everything. Leave nothing out," so Tae-sung told the story. The crash, the medical treatment, the hiding, the pursuit by the shorn. He was honest about his decisions, including the choice not to contact authorities immediately. He explained his reasoning, his tactics, and the final stand at the mining complex. The Queen listened without interruption. When he finished, she leaned back and studied him. "You are a remarkable human. Tae-sung, resourceful, brave, honorable. You saved my daughter when my own empire's resources could not reach her in time. I did what anyone should do. But few would. My advisors have been researching your species since we arrived. Humans are not united. Your world has no central government, no unified military. You are divided into hundreds of nations, constantly competing and sometimes fighting each other. Yet somehow you personally managed to defeat trained mercenaries who have killed across a dozen worlds." One of the advisors spoke up, an older Velaran male. "The Shorn will demand compensation for their losses. They claim you murdered their operatives." "They were trying to kill your princess," Tae-sung said. "That was not murder. That was defense." "The Shorn see no difference," the advisor replied coolly. "They are a recognized mercenary guild with legal standing in many systems. You have created a diplomatic incident." Queen Mirai raised a hand, silencing the advisor. "The Shorn were hired by Lord Gangjin to capture my daughter. They failed. Their legal standing is irrelevant compared to an assassination attempt on royalty." She turned back to Tae-sung. "However, my advisor raises a valid point. Your actions, while noble, have consequences." Lord Gangjin is furious. "The arranged marriage was important to maintaining peace in the outer systems. Without it, we risk conflict. So you will force Hana to marry him anyway?" Tae-sung asked, unable to keep the edge from his voice. "No," the Queen said firmly. "I will not. I arranged that marriage before I fully understood the kind of man Gangjin is. A man who would hire assassins to capture his future bride is not worthy of my daughter or an alliance with the throne. But breaking the arrangement creates other problems. Gangjin feels insulted. His allies in the court are calling for action. Some even suggest that I am showing weakness by letting my daughter's preferences override political necessity." She stood and walked down from the platform, approaching Tae-sung directly. "Which brings me to why I have called you here. I have a proposition for you." "I am listening." "My daughter survived because you protected her. You demonstrated loyalty, courage, and skill against overwhelming odds. You used limited resources and inferior technology to defeat superior forces, through intelligence and determination. These are qualities I value highly." The Queen paused. "I want you to join my royal guard. Specifically, I want you to become my daughter's personal protector." The chamber fell silent. Several advisors looked shocked. Hana's eyes widened. "Mother," she started to say. "Let me finish," the Queen said. She kept her eyes on Tae-sung. "This is not a simple request. It is a solution to multiple problems. First, it keeps you close enough that we can protect you from Gangjin's revenge. Second, it demonstrates to the court that my daughter has proper security, chosen for ability rather than politics. Third, it allows her a measure of freedom knowing someone she trusts is watching over her. And fourth?" Tae-sung asked, sensing there was more. Queen Mirai smiled slightly. "Fourth, it sends a message to Lord Gangjin and anyone else who might threaten my family, that even a single human with primitive weapons and no formal training in advanced warfare can defeat the best mercenaries in the galaxy. Imagine what that says about Earth's potential, about humanity's worth as an ally rather than an overlooked primitive species." "You want to make me a symbol," Tae-sung said. "I want to make you a shield. For my daughter, yes. But also a bridge. First contact between Velarin and humanity officially happened 6 days ago, when you pulled my daughter from her crashed ship. This is history being made, Tae-sung. The question is what kind of history?" Tae-sung looked at Hana. She met his eyes and he saw hope there, hope that he would stay, but he also saw understanding that this was his choice. "I left military service because I was tired of following orders," he said slowly. "You are asking me to take orders again. I am asking you to serve, yes, but not blindly. I am asking you to protect someone who deserves protection, to stand between her and those who would use her as a tool, to be the voice that says no when everyone else says yes, Your Majesty, out of fear or obligation." Queen Mirai's expression became serious. "I do not want a mindless soldier. I want someone who will protect my daughter's well-being, not just her body. Someone who will help her maintain her humanity." She paused. "Her personhood, even within the constraints of royal duty." "What if I say no?" Tae-sung asked. Then we return you to Earth with our thanks and compensation for your service. You return to your mountain and your quiet life. Hana returns to her duties at court, and we both wonder what might have been. Tae-sung thought about that quiet life. 3 years of solitude. 3 years of wondering if leaving military service had been running away or standing up for principle. 3 years of feeling disconnected from purpose. Then he thought about the past week. The fear, yes, and the pain, but also the clarity. The absolute certainty that what he was doing mattered, that he was protecting something worth protecting. If I agree, he said, I have conditions. Several advisors gasped. One did not make conditions with a queen, but Queen Mirai merely nodded. Speak them. First, I serve Hana, not the crown. My loyalty is to her well-being, which may not always align with political necessity. Second, I remain a citizen of Earth. I represent my world as much as I serve yours. Third, if I believe an order is wrong, I will say so, loudly, and if necessary, I will disobey. The advisors looked scandalized. Hana looked amazed. Queen Mirai studied him for a long moment, then smiled, a genuine smile that transformed her face. I suspected you would be difficult, she said. That is exactly why you are perfect for this role. Very well, I accept your conditions. You will serve my daughter as her personal protector, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. You will be trained in Velarin combat arts and given access to our technology. You will speak with her voice in matters of her personal security, and when you believe I am wrong, you will tell me. She extended her hand in a very human gesture. Do we have an agreement? Tae-sung took her hand. Her grip was strong. We do. The queen turned to her daughter. Hana, this human has given up his quiet life to stand beside you. Use his service wisely. Listen to his counsel. He sees clearly because he has no investment in court politics. I will, mother, Hana said softly. Then it is settled. Queen Mirai addressed the chamber. Let it be known that Tae-sung of Earth is hereby appointed as first shield to Princess Hana. He speaks with her authority in all matters of her safety. Anyone who challenges his position challenges me directly. The advisors bowed, accepting the decree even if some looked unhappy about it. As the formal audience ended, Hana approached Tae-sung. You really agreed. You are staying. Someone has to keep you out of trouble, he said. This will not be easy. Court life is complicated. There are factions and politics and people who will see you as a threat or a curiosity. I fought mercenaries for you. I think I can handle some politicians, she laughed. You have no idea what you have gotten yourself into. Probably not, but I will figure it out. That is what humans do best. We adapt. A guard approached and bowed. First Shield Tae-sung, we are preparing quarters for you. We will also need to begin your training immediately. There is much to learn. First Shield, Tae-sung repeated, testing the title. That will take so the Velarin imperial capital was called Mireia, named after an ancient queen who had unified the empire centuries ago. Tae-sung saw it first from orbit, a world of purple oceans and silver cities that sparkled like jewels. 2 suns cast double shadows across floating platforms connected by bridges of light. It is beautiful, he said. Hana stood beside him at the observation window. It is home, though I am seeing it differently now. Through your eyes, I suppose. Fresh perspective makes familiar things new again. The royal shuttle descended toward the main palace complex. It was enormous, a city within a city with gardens and towers and buildings whose architecture seemed to defy gravity. Guards in ceremonial armor lined the landing platform. Crowds gathered in the distance, held back by security fields. They want to see the human, Hana explained. News traveled fast. The princess who escaped assassination, and the human who protected her. It is the most interesting thing to happen at court in years. Tae-sung felt distinctly uncomfortable with the attention. I am not good with crowds. You will need to get better. Being first shield means being seen. You represent Earth now. Every action you take reflects on your entire species. No pressure then. The shuttle landed. Queen Mirai exited first, greeting the assembled officials with the practiced ease of someone who had done this thousands of times. Hana followed, and Tae-sung stayed close behind her as his new position required. The crowd whispered as they saw him. A human, walking beside their princess, wearing simple Earth clothes rather than Velarin finery, carrying himself with military bearing but looking completely out of place. An older Velarin official approached Queen Mirai and bowed. Your Majesty.
Welcome home.
The Council has been informed of recent events and wishes to convene immediately. Let them wait, the Queen said. First we settle our guests. Taesung requires quarters and my daughter needs rest. Of course, Your Majesty. Though I must mention that Lord Gangjin has sent 3 messages demanding an audience. Let him demand. He will receive his audience when I am ready, not before. They entered the palace proper. Taesung tried not to stare at everything, but it was impossible. Halls with ceilings that seemed to reach into infinity, art that moved and changed as you watched. Technology seamlessly integrated with classical design, and everywhere the symbols of power, royal guards, important-looking officials, servants moving with purpose. They brought him to quarters that were larger than his entire research station on Earth. A bedroom with a bed that adjusted itself to his body. A bathroom with facilities he did not entirely understand. A sitting area with windows overlooking the capital city. And most surprisingly, a small arsenal of weapons. You will need these, the guard who showed him the quarters explained. Training begins tomorrow. For now, rest. You have had a difficult week. After the guard left, Taesung explored the space. He found his belongings from Earth. Someone had retrieved them from his station. His few clothes, personal items, and his old military identification. Seeing them here in this alien palace drove home how far he was from home. A chime sounded at his door. Hana entered when he called permission. She looked around the quarters with satisfaction. They did well. These rooms are in the royal wing, close to mine. It will make your job easier. What exactly is my job? Taesung asked. Beyond the obvious of keeping you alive. You attend me during official functions. You advise me on security matters. You accompany me throughout the palace. You stand at my shoulder during council meetings. You learn the faces and names of everyone important so you can identify threats. She paused. And you remain yourself. That is important. Do not let court politics change who you are. You keep saying that, but what if who I am causes problems? Then we deal with problems. But I would rather have problems with you as yourself than false peace with you pretending to be something else. Over the following weeks, Taesung learned what it meant to be First Shield. The training was intense. Veteran combat masters taught him their fighting styles, elegant and deadly, built around speed and precision rather than brute force. He learned to use energy weapons, to read tactical displays, to coordinate with other guards using their communication protocols. But he also taught them. Human fighting styles emphasized adaptability and using the environment. His instructors were surprised at how different his approach was. Less formal, more practical. They started incorporating his methods into their training. Your species fights like cornered animals, one instructor said. Not an insult, just an observation. Desperate and creative. It is effective. Beyond combat training, Hana taught him court protocol. How to bow. How to address different ranks, which ceremonies required formal dress and which allowed casual attendance. The Velaran Empire had thousands of years of tradition, and navigating it all was more complicated than any mission briefing he had ever received. There are 17 different titles for nobility, Hana explained one evening. Each requires different forms of address, and then there are the alliance representatives from other species, each with their own protocols. How do you keep track of all this? Years of training. But you are doing well. You only insulted 3 minor nobles today. Only 3? I am improving. The other guards slowly accepted him. At first they were skeptical. How could this human with no formal training in their arts serve as First Shield? But after he defeated 3 of their best fighters in sparring matches using unconventional tactics, they began to respect him. He was different, yes, but he was effective. The real test came during the first major court function he attended. A formal reception for allied worlds with hundreds of guests representing dozens of species. Taesung wore his new formal attire, adapted for human physiology but clearly marking him as royal guard. He stood at Hana's shoulder as she greeted guests and navigated political conversations. That is Ambassador Keth from the Rylon Confederation, Hana whispered. Very influential, very traditional. Do not be surprised if he is rude about humans. The ambassador approached, his reptilian features arranged in what might have been a smile. He spoke to Hana in flowing Velaran, which her translation device rendered for Taesung. Princess, I see your mother has assigned you an unusual protector. First Shield Taesung comes highly recommended, Hana replied diplomatically. A human. From a primitive world barely capable of space travel, what can such a being offer for your protection? The ambassador looked directly at Tae-sung now. No offense intended, of course. Of course, Tae-sung said evenly. Though if I may point out, Ambassador, my primitive species managed to defeat the shorn mercenaries that your advanced confederation has repeatedly failed to stop. The ambassador's expression froze. Several nearby guests suddenly became very interested in the conversation. Hana touched Tae-sung's arm lightly, a warning to be careful, but the ambassador surprised them both by laughing. Well said, you have spirit, human. Perhaps there is more to your species than I assumed. Tell me, how did you accomplish this feat? By being too stubborn to die and too stupid to know when I was outmatched. More laughter from the growing crowd. The tension eased. By the end of the conversation, Ambassador Keth was treating Tae-sung with cautious respect. Word spread quickly through the reception. The human first shield had a sharp tongue and was not easily intimidated. Later that night, Hana smiled at him. You handled that well. Though you took a risk with that comment about the Confederation. Was I wrong? No, which is why it worked. Just be careful. Not everyone will appreciate honesty. The weeks turned into months. Tae-sung grew more comfortable in his role, though he never quite lost the feeling of being an outsider. He attended council meetings where they discussed politics between worlds. He stood guard during diplomatic negotiations. He trained constantly, pushing himself to match the abilities of guards who had trained their entire lives. And always, there were threats. Subtle ones mostly. Anonymous messages warning Hana to watch her back. Small incidents. A servant who seemed too interested in her schedule. A guard who asked too many questions. Tae-sung investigated each one, following his instincts from military intelligence work. He uncovered a plot by one of Gangjin's agents to poison Hana's food. He identified a supposedly loyal servant who was actually gathering information on the princess's routines. He disrupted 3 separate plans before they could become dangerous, Queen Mirai noticed. She called him to a private audience. You have exceeded expectations, Tae-sung. My daughter is safer with you than she has ever been with traditional guards. You see threats that others miss because you think differently. I'm just doing my job. No, you are changing how we think about security. The other guards are learning from you. The council is learning from you, she paused. Lord Gangjin is becoming increasingly agitated. His allies in court are pressuring me to remove you from your position. They claim you are inappropriate for royal service. Am I being dismissed? Quite the opposite. I am promoting the idea that Earth should send more of its people to serve in various capacities throughout the Empire. If one human can make this much difference, imagine what an alliance could accomplish. That is a big step. Earth is not united. We do not have a single government that can negotiate for the entire. The Grand Arena had stood at the heart of the capital for 10,000 years. Ancient stone mixed with modern technology, creating a space that honored both tradition and progress. It could hold 50,000 spectators, and today every seat was filled. The Trial of Blades, involving a human first shield and a powerful warlord, was the most anticipated event in decades. Tae-sung stood in the preparation chamber beneath the arena, checking his equipment. He wore light armor that allowed maximum mobility, human style, not Velarin. He had chosen a simple staff as his primary weapon, along with a short blade. Unconventional choices, but he was an unconventional fighter. Hana entered the chamber without knocking. You do not have to do this. We can find another way. There is no other way. If I refuse, I lose all credibility. Your position becomes weaker. Gangjin wins without lifting his weapon. Then let him win that way. I do not care about court politics if it means you die today. Tae-sung looked at her. Yes, you do care. You care because if he wins, you lose your freedom again. Everything we fought for becomes meaningless. I am not going to let that happen. He is going to kill you. Maybe, but maybe not. I have 3 advantages he does not expect. What advantages? First, he thinks I will fight like a Velarin warrior. I will not. Second, he believes humans are primitive and easy to predict. We are not. Third, he is arrogant. He thinks this is a formality, a public execution disguised as honor combat. That arrogance will be his weakness. And if you are wrong? Tae-sung managed a smile. Then I had a good run. I protected a princess. I helped forge relations between 2 worlds. I found purpose again after thinking I had lost it. Not bad for a few months' work? Hana looked at him for a long moment, then kissed his cheek. Win. Please win. A guard appeared at the door. It is time. The walk to the arena floor was long. Taesung used it to center himself, falling into the mental state he had learned during military service. Fear was natural. Accept it, use it. Let it sharpen your focus rather than cloud it. The arena floor was huge, a circle of white sand surrounded by tiered seating rising toward the sky. The crowd roared when Taesung emerged. Some were cheering. Many were simply curious. They wanted to see what the human could do. Lord Gangjin was already waiting at the center of the arena. He wore full combat armor, gleaming and intimidating. His weapon was a traditional Velaran war blade, a curved sword that seemed to hum with contained energy. He looked confident, almost bored. In the royal box, Queen Mirai sat with her council. Hana stood beside her, hands gripping the railing. She looked terrified. An official stepped forward to announce the rules. This is a trial of blades sanctioned by ancient law. The combatants will fight until one yields, is incapacitated, or is killed. There are no restrictions on technique. There is no time limit. The victor's position is upheld by the authority of the throne. Combatants approach. Taesung and Gangjin met at the center of the arena. Up close, the warlord was even more imposing. Taller, broader, enhanced with technology that made him faster and stronger. You should have run back to your primitive world, human, Gangjin said quietly. At least then you would have lived. I am tired of running, Taesung replied. Besides, I have seen what you are. A bully who hides behind hired killers and political power. Let us see how you do in fair combat. Gangjin's expression darkened. You will regret that. They separated to opposite sides of the arena. The official raised his hand, then dropped it. Begin! Gangjin moved first, closing the distance with incredible speed. His blade came down in a strike that would have bisected Taesung if it had connected. But Taesung was not there. He rolled sideways, using his staff to deflect the blow just enough to miss. The crowd gasped, not at the near miss, but at the fact that the human had survived the first exchange. Gangjin attacked again, a combination of strikes that flowed like water. Fast, precise, deadly. Taesung defended desperately, his staff moving in patterns that were crude compared to Velaran technique but effective. Block, deflect, redirect. Never try to stop the blade directly, just change its angle enough to survive. Stand still and die, Gangjin snarled, pressing the attack. But Taesung kept moving. He understood now what his instructors had meant. Velaran fighting was beautiful, elegant, built on centuries of refinement. It was also predictable. Each strike flowed into the next in established patterns. Human fighting was messier, more adaptable. Taesung mixed defensive blocks with sudden lunges, incorporated throws and trips that no formal Velaran training covered. He used the arena itself as a weapon, kicking up sand to obscure vision, using the slope of the floor to gain height advantage. Gangjin was faster and stronger, but Taesung was frustrating. He would not stand still. He would not fight the way he was supposed to. 5 minutes into the fight, Taesung saw his opening. Gangjin was breathing harder now, his attacks showing slight hesitation. The warlord had expected a quick victory. The prolonged fight was forcing him to adjust. Taesung changed tactics. He stopped retreating and attacked. His staff struck at angles that made no sense, forcing Gangjin to defend in ways he had not trained for. A strike at the knee, a thrust toward the face, a spinning move that brought the staff around in a wide arc. Gangjin blocked them all, but barely. His confidence was cracking. Fight properly, the warlord shouted. Fight with honor. Honor? Taesung replied, breathing hard. You hired assassins to kidnap a woman who rejected you. Do not talk to me about honor. The words hit harder than any weapon. Gangjin's face contorted with rage. He abandoned technique and simply charged, blade raised for a killing blow. This was what Taesung had been waiting for. Rage made people predictable. He dropped his staff and dove forward inside the range of the sword. His shoulder hit Gangjin's midsection. They crashed to the ground together. They rolled across the sand, each trying to gain advantage. Gangjin had size and strength. Taesung had desperation and training in ground fighting. He got behind Gangjin, wrapped his arm around the warlord's throat in a chokehold. Gangjin thrashed, trying to break free. His armored elbow caught Taesung in the ribs, cracking bone. But Taesung held on. He had learned this hold from military training, practiced it 1,000 times. It cut off blood flow to the brain. 10 seconds properly applied, and even the strongest opponent would lose consciousness. The crowd was screaming. Tae-sung could not tell if they were cheering or horrified. It did not matter. He held the chokehold, ignoring the pain in his ribs, ignoring Gangjin's attempts to break free. 5 seconds. Gangjin's struggles weakened. 7 seconds. The warlord's movements became uncoordinated. 9 seconds. Gangjin went limp. Tae-sung held the hold 2 seconds longer, making sure, then released it. He rolled away, gasping for air. Gangjin lay unconscious in the sand, chest rising and falling. Alive but defeated. The arena fell silent. Then slowly the crowd began to cheer. Not everyone. Some of Gangjin's allies sat in stunned silence. But enough. Enough to make it clear that they had witnessed something remarkable. Tae-sung struggled to his feet. His ribs screamed in protest. Every breath hurt. But he was standing. He had won. Officials rushed onto the arena floor. Medical personnel attended to Gangjin, who was already starting to stir. The official who had announced the rules approached Tae-sung. The trial of blades is concluded. First Shield Tae-sung is victorious. Lord Gangjin's challenge is denied. The betrothal is permanently dissolved. The crowd's cheering intensified. Tae-sung looked up at the royal box. Queen Mirai was standing, her expression impossible to read. Hana had tears streaming down her face, but she was smiling. They helped Tae-sung off the arena floor. Medical personnel tried to examine him, but he waved them off. Later. Right now I need to see the princess. Hana met him outside the arena, away from the crowds. She did not say anything, just threw her arms around him. He winced at the pressure on his ribs, but did not pull away. You won, she said into his shoulder. You actually won. I had good motivation. She pulled back to look at him. What you did today, defeating Gangjin in front of the entire court, it changes everything. You are a hero now. Earth's reputation across the Empire has risen considerably. I did not do it for Earth's reputation. I did it for you, I know. That is what makes it matter. Queen Mirai found them a few minutes later. First Shield Tae-sung, you continue to exceed expectations. I admit I thought you might lose today. So did I, Your Majesty. But sometimes you have to believe you can win even when the odds say otherwise. A very human attitude. The Queen smiled slightly. Lord Gangjin will withdraw from court in disgrace. His political power is broken. The outer systems he controlled will need new leadership. Leadership loyal to the throne rather than to personal ambition. You have done more than win a duel today. You have reshaped the political landscape of the Empire. I just wanted to protect Hana. Yes, and that is why you succeeded. Come, we have much to discuss. The following days were chaotic. Messages arrived from Earth's various governments, all suddenly very interested in formal diplomatic relations with the Velarin Empire. Queen Mirai met with each representative,